Boom. I appreciate you, Sam. Shout out, Sam. I am coming through in the clutch. But happy Saturday, everybody. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We got a small but intimate call today. OG's on the call. We got new squad on the call. We got real ones, OGs, triple OGs on the call. I'm grateful. And I'm excited to really dive into the discussion. Obviously, if I apologize, I kind of sent the information in the chapters a little later than I had wanted. But we are covering Crazy Faith by Michael Todd, Pastor Michael Todd. Don, if you got that book, show the camera real quick, real quick. Boop. It's truly one of them ones. And I'm excited for the actual, faith muscle growing over the course of us reading and conversating over the actual material in the book. We are in chapters 1 and 2. One is like the introduction, and then two is baby faith. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna pass this thing over to whoever would like to kick us off. Um, I'd appreciate whoever that might be. Donnie got his hand raised, or Snowful said he wants to go. Whatever works.
Go ahead, Donnie.
Donnie boy,
Nah, but
good old days.
um,
Last time we did this book, this man kicked us off too. I think that's actually cool. Go ahead, bro.
um, alrighty. So definitely one of my favorite books. Um, one of the first books that I've ever read, and it's definitely stuck to me to this point. Um, it being something that relates to like faith and belief upon yourself, where you are, where you're going, as well as like what God is doing in your life. And in chapter one, it's crazy until it happens. Um, y'all, some of y'all know, some of y'all don't, but I've literally been in a season this past month, month and a half, 2 months. Um, just a handful of things that happen out of my control. And one being driving across the state, go kick it with Marcus and his fam, at the beach in Port Aransas, Corpus. And in that, on the way back, my whole wheel came off my truck, and I had to leave my truck there, fly back home, come to work that week, and find a way back out to New Braunfels. Got a ride with my parents to Corpus to get my truck back after the dude who towed me he offered to let me leave my truck at his house so that way like in his backyard so it's secure. And then he helped me fix it for a low cost. Like he didn't charge me crazy amount. Um, but in that moment, I was like, dude, I definitely like even when we're at the beach and stuff, like I had my moments and like just having people around me to like it's okay, Marcus, mama. It's okay, mijo. Like, God's got you, whatever. And everybody just kind of uplifting me. Definitely helped. And in the moment when it happens on the side of the highway, I'm sitting there. I look up. I'm like, bro, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. How I'm getting home. Like, I don't know. Um, and if y'all don't know. We have a buddy named Nito who he stood there by my side. Marcus was with his parents, like his dad and mom, stepmom, and so they weren't with us, but his mom and stepdad were with us and his sisters, and they got off the highway. Nito stayed there with me and he kind of hugged me. He was like, "It's all right, bro." Like, and like I wanted to break down so bad. Um, and the following week, the day before I drive back out there. to Corpus to get it. I go to the river and I lose my phone. I'm like, bro, I get home. I'm like, dude, I go get a phone right after though, a new one. I was due for an upgrade and I had to pay so much out of pocket. And I was able to get a new phone that day. But in those moments, um, I really relied on my faith, um, and believing like that I was going to get through it some way or another. Like, because I've been through um hard times, and like in those hard times, like I know like the guys came through, and I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for my faith in God. And um, the biggest thing that reminds me, like he says, uh, um, page 7 on the book, um, he's talking about how we each have beliefs, standards, philosophies, and habits that are built from some sort of foundation, whether it's from family, friends, education, religion, or culture, or a combination of all of the above. Um, and the beautiful thing about faith is that it's never too late to build it. And a foundation, a firm foundation is essential to hold a structure in place. Um, in those hard times, like I look back at Matthew 7:20. Let me just check that. Mhm. Matthew 7:24. Yeah. So says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on a rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall because it had a firm foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. When the rain came, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, it fell with a great crash. Um, so in these times, like over the past month and a half, 2 months, like I just lived this scripture. Like, let me live out the words that I know, that I've disciplined myself to um, learn, gain knowledge and wisdom upon through reading the word and just living them out. Like there was times, like I mentioned before, everybody hopped on. Um, the semester started for school, and in that, like I served with the youth ministry, and I lead a group of sophomore boys. And there's times where like, bro, feel like I don't feel like my cup is full and that I am spiritually able to pour out to these boys. And um, I've just had to live in my faith and walk in that. Um, and then in that one little quote or thing that's boxed in on page 9 is the integrity of the foundation you build your life on determines the type of structure that can be built on it. Um, so with that, like I know, like if you haven't heard or you have, like how you do everything is how you do anything, and um, it's not easy when we're not perfect. It's definitely something that I remind myself all the time, like, oh, I slipped up or I did this, or like, well, why reflecting on why I say that or why did I do that or whatever. It's like, well, how you do anything is how you do everything, and that integrity builds. your character and what people actually see through how you live out your faith. Um, and like praise God, I've gotten compliments and like when I walk in a room and like they can tell. But like I don't do it for that. I literally am just living in my faith, you know? Um chapter two, baby faith. Um One of the little subtitles is you've got to crawl before you walk. Um and it's kind of just remind me that like you gotta start somewhere. Um and like if you're not where you desire to be, or um, you kind of compare yourself like, oh, this person is way like spiritually filled more than I am, like whatever. That'll definitely put a hinder to your growth of faith. Uh, because like that subtitle, you gotta crawl before you walk. And start somewhere. So, um, getting into like the practices of faith and uh crawling, starting in the baby steps and growing that to where it is that you desire to be. And surrounding yourself with people who have crazy faith. Like, because with the baby faith, you as you surround yourself with those people, um, like you'll their crazy faith will plant a seed small, this size of a mustard seed, um, is all it takes. And so the more people that you surround yourself with who have crazy faith, like it'll grow your baby faith. You're like, yo, I may not be where I want to be in my faith in life and whatever the case in business. But like because of these people, I believe and I know that it's possible that I could grow to where I want to be. Um, and so definitely powerful book for sure. Um, I'm excited to read it out with you guys and see where it is that y'all are at because it's definitely been a minute for me. Being on book club and plugged in, I actually, well, recap. Um, to end everything, I texted Marcus and Mikhail this past week, last week, um, like uh, not this past Monday, but the Monday before. Um, I went to a young adults college service at my church, and the pastor he was dialing in on the yeah, don't know the story of the guy picking up his mat when Jesus told him like pick up your mat and go and walk. Uh, and that like it reminded me to be bold and acknowledge that I am called by God and um, I've been placed where I'm at with an assignment to make a global impact, whether it's in whatever it's in every aspect of life. And so definitely excited. That is something hit that hit home, in which led me to really like, all right, let me step in, let me pick up my mat and walk and
Federal agent
do
arrested nearly
what God has called me, and move in that. But appreciate y'all. I'll pass it to Arnolfo.
Hey, Donnie. Appreciate that, man. I was good, bro. I mean, you touched on a lot of things that I wanted to touch on as well. I mean, definitely going through situations and leaning on family and having a faith-based family is very important. My family came in, they were, heavy in faith as well. They were mostly Catholics, and surely, slowly, they started becoming non-denominational Christians. So, it's always good to have them as well to lean on and seeing God's hand in your life. And the book was, I mean, I'll say this right now. The last, I think the last couple of months, God has been really pushing me to build my faith. And I thought I had good faith, but sometimes we give ourselves more credit than we're supposed to when it comes to God and where we at with God. Sometimes we need to just humble ourselves and ask uh, for more of Him and less of us. And I think God has been really pushing me to anchor in my faith, and that's in chapter one. He talked about just having an anchor of faith, just having that as a strong foundation. Um, and I'm working on that. I'm still working on it. I'm 44 years old, still going through a lot of things, and I thought I was pretty strong. I mean, uh, but no, I mean, there's just so much more that life can hit you, and life be life, and if you're not prepared, if you don't have a strong sense of uh, God's hand in your life and God's purpose, and then relying on that, I mean, it can wear you down. So that spoke to me as well. Building a foundation when he talked about the Khalif Tower and how deep that foundation needs to be. And I think Danny uh, picked up on the same scripture that I was thinking of when he in the book when he was referring to that about how if you don't apply the things that God teaches you and what the apostles teaches you and the examples of the stories, if you don't catch that, you're going to be struggling most of your life and going through tests until you figure it out what God wants you to be and and that foundation of faith is very important. Um, Jesus referred to Peter as on this rock he will build his church and Peter, man, he was a great apostle. He was a strong, very outspoken, bold, uh, but also as well as very humble towards God and Jesus. But yeah, I mean, just to have a strong faith like that, it takes it, some people. I don't know. Some people can do it easily. For me, being a man, being a person that work 12 hours a day as a field mechanic out in the oil fields and stuff like that, I always had this hard time of saying, I can take care of this. I can take care of this. I can do this. I can work, and learning to lay that down and give it to God, learning to have faith that everything's going to come out all right. Um, and not worry about it is very difficult for me personally. Um, just a little side note, this week was kind of crazy as well. Donnie shared, I'm gonna share as well. So this past I think it was Thursday, it was my kid's mother's birthday, so she passed away 3 years ago, and um, it's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is working on this real estate business and learning how to trade and I cut yards on the side for extra cash as well, just doing all this. And for years I turned wrenches. I just had one job and come in and work, 10, 12, 15 hours and come have a decent, lifestyle. But, all that changed when she passed away. And I stepped in faith, uh, believing that this business was going to be a way that I can provide for my kids. And it's been a struggle. It has been a struggle. I know for a fact that when you build your foundation and you go after these dreams, the anchor, and that's what I, when he said that we had to anchor our faith, and I immediately thought about the dreams I stepped out and tried to apply for my kids and in my life, and it's been tested for sure. I always wanted to quit. There's times I wanted to quit and just say, forget this. I'll just go back to turning wrenches. I mean, I got like $13,000 worth of tools in my garage, toolboxes and tools. Like it was my career. But I knew that doing that and being present for my sons while this difficult time of them not having their mother, I had to make a choice, right? And that was my choice. And business is getting better. I got some deals in the pipeline. I got a contract there. I'm about to get signed in North Carolina, so we're waiting on that. So I mean, it's slowly but surely, but I see that God still wants me to just to have more faith and speak out. There was a sermon I heard today by Merlin Monroe. I don't know if you heard him. He's old school, but he said something about, if in Joseph, he referred to Joseph. That was one of my first favorite stories in the Old Testament, was the story of Joseph, and uh and how God gives you a dream, and he never shows you the in between of that dream. He just shows you the end results. And he showed Joseph the end results of him being in the throne and his brothers bowing to them. And nobody believed him, right? His brothers betrayed him and threw him and sold him into slavery. And he did all this to Joseph. And if God would have said, Joseph, here's your dream, you're going to be on the throne of Egypt, but then you have to go through prison, you're going to have to go through betrayal, you're going to have to go through all this for 14 years. He said Joseph would have said, forget the dream, just the hardship of going through that process. But sometimes when God gives you that little spark or that little vision in your heart, and then you just bring it to God and affirm it that it is something from him, you have to take that leap of faith and go after it, and it will be tested. Your faith, your dream will be tested. And I can feel God, always nudging me not to quit. So um, stepping on in faith and just believing it's something that I'm still working on, even though I'm doing what I'm doing. People say, well, single dad trying to start a business, doing this and that, that's quite a feat. And it is, but nobody sees the difficulties behind the scenes. He said in chapter one, he refers about uh, how Noah, uh, how Noah was perceived as somebody crazy, just building this ark for years. It took him years to build the ark, cutting the wood and putting it together. And for years he was ridiculed and called crazy. And this guy is nuts. And then until the rains came and the floods came, and then he wasn't right. He listened to God's word, and all the hardships, all the difficulties that whole time paid off. And he also referred in chapter one that you want to be. How will people see you, right? How will people remember Arnulfo or Marcos or Sam or Donnie? How will they remember you at the very end, right? And it's and I do want to be that person that stepped out in faith. I do want to be that person that showed my kids that it's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. And it's been 3 years since they passed. Their mother passed away, and it's kind of somber. But when first passed away, my kids were kind of distraught, man. They was in a tough time, and that whole time between then and now, it was hard, very, very, very hard. And even though I kind of miss the look, the finances of turning a wrench and working for a company, big corporation like Schlumberger, um, I'm grateful that I did it, because now my oldest son is baptized, you know, he volunteers. He's on the creative team. He's building his relationship with God. Um, and then I'm having conversations with my youngest one about being baptized. So yeah, I got time to reflect on how far we come across. I'm not exactly where I want to be, just like the book says, but there's progress and there's hope and there's continued faith that I need to uh, continue to start speaking over our lives. The pastor I referred as Merlin Monroe. He says sometimes you have to plan things out in faith. Like if you want to buy a house, then you need to have the habits of keeping up with the yard and fixing the sink and be ready for that blessing, right? And that's where I'm at, just asking God right now as I wait for my business to blow up, as I wait for my trading skills to get to a point where I can make money easily. I ask God to help me in this season with my heart while I wait. Help me prepare my heart for this blessing. And that's where I'm at. I feel that I'm at, and I definitely want to instill these attributes and these skills. And in chapter 2, he refers to, everybody wants to be on top of that mountain. Everybody wants to be in that ark uh, with the rest of the animals, feeling that cool breeze after, the rains have stopped. But nobody wants the splinters in their hands, right? I think that spoke a lot. Uh, that you have to do the work, and sometimes doing the work means going through the bad times, and still praising God through those bad times because it's those bad times that give you the resolve and the strength to persevere. So that's as far as I got, man. And appreciate y'all. Think I'll pop it over to Sam.
Actually, you mind if I take that real quick, just because I'm headed to work, and just in case when I'm done here, I want to make sure share my portion. But one, gents, I appreciate the vulnerability, and honestly, the authenticity of y'all's journey and what you're going through. I know, Phil, bro, I can't even imagine, man. I remember when you told me that testimony when I first got to connect with you over the phone, and just seeing like your drive to really set yourself apart, but work towards helping your sons have a better life and a better opportunity and a better relationship with God. Where I admire it and it's inspirational. Just know that we're all here for you, bro. So we're not meant to go through this life alone. Down the dime, man. As a little brother of mine, I'm proud of you, dude. I see your faith continue. And sometimes, like you might not feel like your cup is full, but bro, you be inspiring people on a daily. And I know there are times where I feel like I've dropped the ball in my end and the faith that I should be upholding, and I'm just grateful to be around people like yourself. Um, just to see the process of your growth has been a blessing, man. So, one, gents, I appreciate y'all taking that actual truth, in your day to day, because it does require vulnerability, and it requires a surrender. So, I guess picking up from it, like I was telling earlier today, um, it was actually wild too, bro, seeing your truck with no wheel on it is reading chapter 1 again. As I was saying at the beginning of the call before we started the recording, I actually gave my book to a mentee who had been around for some time, and he was struggling with some things in his day to day. So I told him, like, bro, you should actually read this book. There's a lot of great things that'll help you understand what type of life you want to build, um, and more so, what type of calling God is asking you to fulfill. And in that, I don't have the copy with me, which was a little frustrating, but I should be getting it back soon. And I was listening to the audio, and y'all, I went through a deep dive. I think I spent like an hour trying to find like a PDF and I couldn't find one. So I apologize for not being able to get an ebook for y'all. But I did my best. Anyways, When it comes to chapter one, it's only crazy until it happens. I Y'all touched on a lot in terms of like a firm foundation. I know that's been very evident in my life. I think as a reminder of the scripture that uh, Donnie brought up in the book of Matthew. What's going on, dude? You got to put on your blinker, fam. What's popping? It's crazy. Okay, but um, one of the things that's extremely evident is the fact that like the storm is going to come. And I get really frustrated with myself when I'm like thrown off when there's a storm or there's a problem that I didn't see coming because like I've said this pretty often, but like I don't know why I'm still getting surprised about getting surprised. Like it's not, it's something that he tells us, especially as a believer, that we're going to suffer and we're going to experience these things as followers of him. That's why he asks us to pick up our cross every single day. And that's been evident in my life. Um, I think everybody here knows my story. But the last 2 to 3 years of my life has been extremely trying and transformative. And I know God has been working on my soul to fully not operate in the things I used to and not think of the certain things that I used to in the same manner that I have previously. And I think as of the last 60 days, knowing how close I am to the promise and knowing all the work that I've put in over the decade, um, seeing how most people around me respond to difficulties and challenges, and knowing that I'm called to respond differently, I've grown really like weary and exhausted. And sometimes um, the facts that we see erode the faith that we need. And it was a great reminder just to read like the little things that we all take for granted. For example, the phone that I'm talking to you guys on, the fact that we're on this call every week through the internet, and we've been able to connect with people all over the United States. I know everybody here currently is in Texas, but like having people all over the United States and now globally being connected through something we call Zoom and FaceTime, like these things that 20 years ago people would say is absolutely crazy. There's no way. Now they're literally cars driving themselves and things being automated without humans like being present in that. And I think like one of the like as fearful as a lot of people are of AI and how things are changing globally, I also think it's a testament and a testimony how God can use what was meant for evil for good. Like I've read this time and time again. For example, right? Story of Joseph. This man got thrown into a ditch, sold into slavery by his brothers, and then got pursued by his master's wife, told her no. And this was like a beautiful woman. Like she wasn't like ugly at all. She was like one of the main females that was the wife to his master. And he had the willingness and the fortitude, the strength to turn away from his lust and say no. Thrown in jail for it because she said otherwise, just because she was mad he turned her down, and then spent years in that process. And whenever the sons came in need for help because of the famine that was taking place all throughout the land of Egypt and through the land of Canaan, God had put him in a position where he not only could fulfill the dream that he gave him, but also help and sustain the future generations to come that would fulfill the promise that God gave to Abraham. Y'all, I've been in my word, and it's been crazy to really see how, like, in the midst of me going through certain things or feeling like things are unfair or being mistreated by people who I've just put my heart out for them and served and helped in that manner, y'all, it's been trying. And I look at some of the people that God upheld, sustained, and uplifted, and he literally turns that negative thing into a good thing. And I pray this every morning, and I literally remind myself, and I know that he uses all things for good, for those that love and trust in him, right? So, um, honestly, y'all, it's wild that you bring up Joseph Adnolfo, because as I've been reading the Bible, and as I've been in tune with crazy faith, as we get back into this book, I've been having some wild dreams, and I don't dream, y'all. I really don't. So, like, the fact that I've been having some dreams, I honestly had a really disturbing one, not last night, but the previous, and it was just playing in my head, and I couldn't get myself out of it. So I sought some spiritual mentorship from my pastor, Pastor Sam, as well as a friend of mine who has been gifted with the ability to interpret dreams as well. Um, and that was honestly one of the gifts from the Spirit that was given to Joseph, right? In prison, he was able to interpret certain dreams, and then that was able to get him in a position of power in all of the land of Egypt, second to no one else other than Pharaoh himself. So as I've been reading, and like in that first chapter, seeing the crazy things that used to be crazy, like from the telephone to what was the other example he gave? I have it up. Right, building aspirations of God's promises rather than your fear. And I feel like over the last 60 days, seeing the challenges that come before me, I'm constantly reminding myself to know that what you see as lack to another person could be abundant. I had jokingly I made a comment to Sam the other day because we were out of water bottles, and we do have water, like, but it's just not good water, like at all to drink, right? I was like, where I was playing, I'm like, bro, it's crazy because like kids in Africa, they would drink that all day and tomorrow, and it's real life though. Like sometimes when we look at a situation as lack, we really just have to switch our perspective to abundance. And as I was looking and reading on how these people who had this vision and dream given to them by God and then went out and pursued it, not knowing how it would go done, like the amount of faith that it takes as a principle to believe in yourself to do it, but then to believe in God to deliver you, requires you to build your foundation on Him and not your own strength, on faith rather than your own fear of what we have going on. So, chapter one was definitely really encouraging, especially because of what I've been going through over the last 2 months. So as I get into chapter two, I just ask y'all keep me in prayer. I've been I don't know if y'all have heard this song. It's called um, Ikigai by Futuristic, and it's based off the principle. But
I put them on.
no, you did not. You did not, sir. We definitely put you on it. Oh, Donnie, you're funny, bro. But Ikigai, right? And the song's about the purpose of everything aligning. And he's like, he doesn't really sing at the end of it. Um he's giving like a poetry, a poem, and he talks about how like because I'm consistent and because I am I have a full plate. Sometimes people don't think that I struggle too. Just because I wake up and I do the things that I need to do doesn't mean that I don't experience the same fears or trials or doubts that everyone else has. I'm just so in tune with my decision to walk in faith that I can't disregard what it actually is. Like I know that even despite my situation and circumstances, I have to take that next step forward, and I've got to trust in Him. It's literally what I've been doing for the last couple of years in a way that I never would have imagined. You know, if God told me this stuff was in the middle of what He promised me, I would have never started. Would have never took those baby steps, those crawling going into chapter two, um, and having that baby faith. But literally, y'all, it's just one thing after the other. And as I was reading that, it reminded me of the compound effect, right? It's compounding small things over a period of time, right? It might not happen right away or in the way that you planned it or would like it to occur, but it's going to happen, right? If you practice a skill for 15 minutes a day, every day for the next 3 years, you're going to be more efficient at it. you're doing the things. Even though in your first 6 months, you're exhausted, you're tired, you're not seeing much progress, right? Like when I think about my fitness, I've been actively going after living a healthy lifestyle, not just working out, but eating better, making better decisions on what I'm putting in my body, how and when I'm eating, um, my alcohol intake, my smoking. Like I've been aligning that to honor God with my temple, and I struggle with it. But over the last 3 years of doing the small things over and over and over and over again, I've been able to see a change in my life, in my physique, in my energy and vitality. Shout out to Marcus Sodas Ferrari. But truly, y'all, like I understand now more than ever. And it's really amazing. Like, y'all, you take the principles he's talking about, and you'll be able to build an Empire State Building, right? You can't build an Empire State Building on a ported potty foundation. Like you need a wide foundation, a strong foundation, because when the storm comes and you're doing these small things over a period of time, the baby faith will grow, right? It's like a muscle. The more you put it into practice, the more effective you'll be. And I'm just grateful that like I don't even have the patience anymore. And sometimes I feel like I don't even have the hope. But literally my strength, my patience, and my hope rely on God. I am in the word because that's all I have. Like yes, I have a car. Yes, I have blessings. But what I'm most grateful for is the fact that the Lord is patient with me. His grace is sufficient. Like I deserve to go to hell. I deserve because of the things that I knew what to do and didn't do, or I knew not to do but did anyways. Seeing him on the cross, still spitting in his face rather than doing what he'd asked, he still gives me grace. Like every single morning, it's renewed. And that allows me to take those baby steps in the right direction. And as I look back, I feel like, I'm exhausted. It's been a decade now, and I'm not where I want to be. I'm a lot further than I was. And the impact he's been able to have with and through and for me. And I'm overall, even though a little worn out and drained from the process and the trials, like I feel like, I don't know if you have ever seen that video of that UFC fighter, the woman that's like beat up, black eye, like it's like bullet, she's bleeding all across her face. And they're like, how was it? She was like, yeah, it was a good time. I'm here. That's how I feel sometimes, y'all. Like, this is a trial, but even when I don't know, I know that's where faith can step in, right? Because if I knew everything, it wouldn't require faith at all. It would just be me doing the things. But I've been walking on the water, focusing on him, and when I take my eyes off him and I look at the storm like any human does, he reaches down and he pulls me out, right? And even though I'm in the deep end and I don't know where my feet are being established somehow, some way, those baby steps, those small steps of progression, like he's establishing every single one of my footsteps. And I don't know how else to explain it other than unless you're actively doing it in your life, you don't know until you're in it. Right? I didn't know that I wasn't fully operating in faith until I decided to actually start operating in faith, doing the things that made me fearful, and seeking help when my pride wants to get in the way, or being vulnerable when I'm scared to talk about in transparency what I'm going through. And all those little things add up, and that deals with I think Donnie brought it up, right? The integrity of the foundation. It's not just a strong foundation. It's like, what is the foundation made of, right? You can have a foundation that looks strong, but if it's made of sand, it's not going to work, right? And I think that as I take these steps in the continued direction of where he's asked me to go, I'll just continuously trust in him, repent when I falter and I stumble and I miss my ways. I think in the book of James, the apostle tells us, "You sinful people, like turn away once again from what you have done and turn back to God." That's all we have to do every single day. And I think the Lord has been like Pastor Philip. If you know him, he's 2819 out in Atlanta. He's bald black guy. but he's extremely strong in his discernment and powerful in his preaching. But he talks about like allowing God to wring the sin out of your life. Like wringing requires a lot of force. Like if you wring out a towel with a bunch of water in it, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes my muscles be hurting if I'm trying to get all the water out. Do y'all remember the Sham Wow, or what is it called? The Y'all know what I'm talking about? Like it fill up all the water and then you just bring it. I'd use it to dry my car after a car wash. But let me just make sure I didn't miss the exit. Okay, we're good. But yeah, like allowing him to wring and prune, which is like a not comfortable process. It's not designed to be this, oh, that was easy, hit the easy button. Like absolutely not. If it was easy, it's not worth it. And if it's worth it, it's probably not going to be easy at all. So I just want to encourage you guys, like I appreciate everybody who hopped on today's call and read the book. The book is more so for you than it is anything else. And I just want y'all to know that like that faith, those baby steps can continuously being taken if you decide to not do it just on your own, right? And that's why I love our community. I'm grateful for the people who are here, people who are catching the recording, people who aren't here anymore. Every person had a role and a part to play, and every single day we get closer to that promise as long as we are moving one step in front of the other, faith forward. It's why I've been establishing that term in my brand personally, because I just aim to move forward as consistently as possible, leaning on faith over anything else. So I appreciate it. I'll pass this thing over to Sam, so that you can take it, bro. Thank y'all for listening to me. I love y'all.
Well, yeah, I appreciate the transparency, Marcus, and Arnolfo, and Donnie too. It's very commendable. Um, and I'll be transparent as well. I wasn't able to get into the book this week, so I don't want to go off on a tangent. But what y'all said really resonated with me, and I can share a personal story as well because I mean, what was said? I mean, the foundation, like Marcus just said, I mean, you acted like you knew it all, and then you moved accordingly. And I know Arnolfo brought this up as well, that you know, just man, what was said. The what I want to share is, I acted in the same manner. I put faith on the back burner. I grew up in the church, so I knew the word, but I never really made it my own. And so it was it wasn't until I got tested. My life got, like Arnulfo said, life be life, and it really does. And if you don't listen to the lesson, life will teach you again until you learn that lesson. And like Marcus said, when the storms come, when mine storms came, I built my whole life on a shaky foundation. You could say made of sand. My core values, my priorities, my thoughts. They were all not aligned with my faith or God's word. And once I got tested, I mean, life got shaken, like life changing. And so it wasn't until you know I had to, I commend, Marcus. I don't know if the reason of your change was pain, but it's the case for a lot of people. They really don't have the time to reflect, or they don't choose to take the time to reflect. Like Arnulfo said, you have the time now, but with the pain in your life. So it's very common that people don't take the time to reflect on their actions, or what their foundation is fundamentally, until there's something tragic in their life, until there's a great change and they're forced to change, and they're forced to look at how they're living their life and what came to be and how we came to be here. And that was the case for me. You know, I had a life-changing incident, and it wasn't until then that I realized that I rely, like, this is what you said, enough. You're strong. You relied on your own strength, and I was the same exact way. I was determined. I'm a go-getter. If I want something, I'm gonna go get it because I know I can do it. And it's had nothing to do with faith. That's how I was operating. It had nothing to do with faith. It was specifically based on how much I trusted in not anyone else, but myself. And that's how I operated. And that's how my foundation was built upon, on myself. And you know, as we're pouring into ourselves with personal development, we just come to learn that you learn a lot quicker with a mentor, and you can go a lot further with a community. Because when you're stuck with yourself trying to go through these thoughts of yourself, I mean, you all you have is your own thoughts, and you're pretty set in your ways. I mean, I'm stubborn. I'm stubborn as a mule. I was set in my ways, and so nothing was going to change until obviously a life incident, a life changing incident, and that's when I realized that I had a lot. I've had a lot more. I've made upwards of 5 grand. Like for during COVID, I was working, so I was making like 5 grand a month, and I was making money, and that my confidence was tied to how much money I was bringing in at the time, and it's a very shaky foundation because as soon as you're not making that money, what does that mean? Who are you? And that's my whole foundation was based off of. And so um what was it called that it wasn't because I had a lot of materialistic things, and it wasn't until I got humbled, and I had to take a step back and have that reflective time and reflect and thinking, how was I thinking when I was going through this? Why did this happen? How did it come to be? And it wasn't until I had everything taken away. Like I got into an accident, I lost my car, lost my apartment, the relationship I was in, everything. And that was everything that in my power I was able to get for myself. And I didn't appreciate it. I took it all for granted. And it wasn't until I had to take a step back and really identify who I am and how I want to move. Like Marcus said, moving it when you actually decide to move in faith and align yourself with what you know what to do, but you're choosing not to. So it wasn't until I had the conscious decision to actually move forward in my faith and step accordingly that it was, now, like, you could say I don't have as nice of a car. You could say I don't have a nice of a place, and not being in a relationship. So
No, no,
it's
no. We got a nice spot, bro. We got a nice spot.
right, right, right. And so I say that to say you could look at it that way, right? Perception is all it is, and I am so grateful. I'm way more grateful for the quote unquote less that I have today than everything I had before, because I know everything I have today, God gave me, has come from God. And I appreciate it so much. And I'm so grateful for the things. And obviously, having a mentor that walks in his faith, doesn't just talk his faith, that walks in his faith, and is a great role model to look towards to. That's definitely helped my perception in that. Like you said, like the lack of no water, and I said, "There's no water bottles in the house, bro. I got nothing to drink," and he just turned on the sink, like, "Here's water." Like it's just like you said, the mindset, and really the vibration. I believe that faith really allows you to operate at a high vibrational frequency, because when I wasn't moving in faith, and how I used to be, I was always around people, but I was very isolated in my way of thinking, my thought patterns, and my actions. And so it wasn't until you really have that you take not only have the time, but because we all have the time, but take the time to reflect and to change and to build a strong foundation. And so that's what y'all really said really resonated with me. And so that's really, I don't want to go off on a tangent because I didn't read, so I don't want to project anything. So I will end it there, but I appreciate the transparency and the it's very commendable. So I appreciate y'all. Arnulfo, Marcus, y'all sharing. And Amani, if you are available, close us out on here. I would love to hear you. Thank you guys.
Gang, gang, yes, God, y'all. I didn't read either. I can't even tell you how I feel right now. I had a good night though. I don't usually be like this on book club, so recording people on the recording don't eat me alive, okay? In the book club, we all fam. But I just, I definitely didn't read this week, but that's okay. Like I do appreciate y'all takes on everything, and Sam, what
Hey,
you
you
said
showed up.
wasn't.
You showed up, though. I appreciate you, girl.
How dead in Simone? My car died at 5 a.m. I didn't get home till 6. It was crazy, y'all. Anyways, so Sam, like I really resonated with what you said because I actually been through the same thing, and like I know this is really random, but like when did your car accident happen? Like when did it? What year?
It's been 3 years now.
So
So it
like
was,
2022.
yeah, the beginning of 2022.
Okay, so for me, mine happened in 2023, and it's very it, like you know how you say you were taking things for granted. Like now that I have been through a whole different level, because I've been through a lot of stuff, y'all. Y'all couldn't even imagine like the things I've seen, the things that's happened. I'm not even that kind of person. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I don't think it's necessarily like you were like you took it for granted, which I'm not saying you're wrong. Like I agree with you in that sense. Like, I think it's just like sometimes that adversity truly makes you like hit a level of gratitude that you had never hit before until you really been through the mud. Like it's like a surface level gratitude, but when you lose everything, you have to start over. That's when you really have to walk in that faith and like let everything play out. And for me, after 2023 was like one of the hardest years of my life. I had been through so much stuff. Like it was emotionally rough for me, physically, mentally, everything it just all crumbled. And but 2024, like God really gave me this blessing of being able to not only sit back, relax, but spend time with my family, travel, camp, be in nature, learn that as a woman, like I can go off and travel and camp alone and not die. Okay. So like being able to having that faith is so powerful. And just FYI, y'all, my name means faith in Arabic. Y'all got faith up in the dang chat, y'all. So that's all I'm gonna say for today.
Crazy
But
Imani. Crazy Imani. Let's get it.
but I will say this, like it's faith, it's belief. And if y'all, I think I quoted this in the last book, but god dang Peter Pan, man. Like you really had to believe, you had to be light, you had to think of happy thoughts and truly believe in fairies and magic to fly. So just throwing that out there, y'all. Like crazy faith, just off the title, like it, I can see it, like having so much faith in things that you cannot see. There's the quote like that: having faith in the things you cannot see, and something. Dang, what it is. But great. Okay, next week I got y'all. So next week we're going to be reading chapters 3 and 4. I don't know. I'm just
We actually are. I appreciate you. I was like, oh, quit playing with her. But hey, y'all, I gotta go. I love y'all. I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. Appreciate the conversation. God bless, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.